What's going on, folks? Welcome back to Launch Our Channel. I know it's been a minute since we did a video, but today we are going to start some of our prep for the spring. As you guys know, last spring when we moved into this house, we built this parking pad that's back here, and this year we decided that we're going to make it a little bit smaller. Now that we have the shed in place and that one of my daughters has moved into her own place, we don't need as much parking. We want to create a little bit more boundary around the shed and maybe do some landscaping back there. So we're gonna make this thing just a little bit smaller. Right now I fit 3 cars in there, but I think I'm gonna work on getting just over 2 cars so there's a little bit more room, but also creates that boundary between the parking pad and the shed. So the good news is, and we're gonna make it smaller, the bad news is that I built this thing really well. And I'm not just bragging, I'm just telling you, it's gonna be a lot of work to take it apart. There's a bunch of 6-inch lag screws that are in place. And then I'm also gonna have to create a whole new boundary around it. So I'm probably gonna have to get some crusher run to get everything this set up nicely. So there is a little bit of work involved today, but if you guys stay tuned, you guys can see how I pull this thing apart and put it all back together so that we're ready to go. The side over here where I'm actually making it smaller, I'm actually gonna do some fill dirt with some of the dirt that I'm going to be pulling out from our next project, which is to fix some of the water falling and drainage issues that we have whenever we get the big rains that are coming out of my pop-ups that come out of my gutters. So that's another project for another day. Like I said, we're getting ready for spring. It doesn't feel like spring today. It's about 34 degrees. I'm cold, but I'm going to get to work here pretty quickly. I've got some new gear that I'm going to try out that I saw on somebody else's channel. I'm actually bought some of this gear. In fact, let me just show you what it is. So today I'm going to try out these new gloves. They're Giver gloves. These are their 4-season gloves, not sponsored. I just saw it on somebody else's channel and I actually bought it for my truck for me to keep in there for when we actually go off-road and do some camping. But today I'm going to break them in and try them out. But I'll put a link in the description. Like I said, it's not sponsored. I don't make any money off of this. I'm just going to give it a shot. And if they're terrible, I'll let you know. So let's get to it. All right, well, first things first, let's start by admiring the beautiful shed. For those of you that don't know, I actually built this shed this past summer. If you want to see how I did it, go over to the other channel that I have, which is the Shark Shed channel, and you can see all the steps. Second thing is, as you guys can see, I'm trying to do a little bit of cleanup before I start messing around with this parking space. For those of you that don't know, I had a knee replacement surgery back in November, so I'm not moving as easily as I used to. But I'm getting there, and you can see a little bit of a giddy up in my step right there, but we're getting there. To start off, we had to pull all of these 6-inch lag bolts off, and it turns out they were dug in there pretty well. Most of this is because these timbers are below grade and they have been absorbing a lot of water, so they are pretty swollen up and it got real difficult. So I used my pneumatic impact wrench to pull everything off, and then I finished things off with my electric impact wrench to get everything pulled apart, and then I was able to make things a little bit easier to pull off. The screws that were below grade were actually the hardest ones to get undone because it was really waterlogged and it made these timbers extremely heavy, but I was able to do it with just a little bit of effort. We're taking everything down to where I can actually take that piece out all the way. These are actually dropped in with those spikes, which I could probably just lift out, but I want to be able to reuse this whole piece that goes all the way down to reattach into this smaller area, which probably is right where that cut is. So that may be perfect right there, and then run it down here, and then that will actually be the size. But I need to measure it, make sure it's the right size. And if that's the case, I was hoping I could move that whole thing in one shot and not take it apart, but I mean, that one board right there was heavy enough. I don't think I can lift 3 of them by myself, or even with help from my brother-in-law and my wife at the same time. They're pretty waterlogged because they're below grade right there, and you can see how clean that is from all that dirt that I brought in. So I think I'm gonna actually take all of this apart and do it the proper way, even though I'd rather do it the brute strength way. Oh well, I'm not a young man anymore, and my knee is still healing. So let's not go crazy. Let's do it right. So back to the pneumatic wrench and my electric impact drill to pull everything apart. Now that we've got everything apart, I needed to trim down a timber that would fit over on the end. I thought where the cut was perfect, but it turns out I need a little bit more. I want this thing to be about 20 feet across and about 20 feet deep, which is where it is already. So I had to do a little bit of trim work and get everything cut down. Probably gonna have to replace that blade because everything was really waterlogged and blades do not like that. Got everything in place, made sure it was nice and level and even with the rest of the timbers. At this point, I can start putting all of these other timbers down and making sure that everything is straight. I had to measure across the front. Turns out I'm not square, but there's not much I can do about that without moving the other side. So for now, I just want it to be even from the front of the parking pad all the way to the end. And this is when I realized that all of this ground is pretty frozen. And I'm moving these rocks around and they're moving a little bit, but the deeper I go, the more frozen the ground is getting because this is pretty much clay underneath here. Surprisingly, all of this landscape fabric held together pretty well. So I just moved out of the way and then I put down a thin layer of the gravel to try and keep my boots from picking up all of the mud and clay and gravel in the treads. But it was easier said than done. When I started digging into the clay, this is when I realized that everything is really frozen and this clay was near impossible to just dig through. It was really compacted. Day number 2 was a much nicer day. It was still really cold, but it was much nicer and I was able to finish off just a little bit of the clay. And this is when I start putting down the crusher rod to make sure things are nice and even. This is a lot of work and it's a necessary step to make sure things don't sink and that they stay even when you put them down. You are really working hard to make sure that things are even. The best tool that I had was this hoe to just move things around and do a little bit of compaction. I don't want it super compacted before I put the timbers down, but I definitely want the timbers to have a place to sit and then settle in while I'm trying to get things nice and even. So it's a little bit of effort. We got there. Took out my trusty galvanized 10-foot pipes to make sure things were even. I've had these pipes for years and they've always been great to use when you're trying to get things to be level and to figure out how much you need to move things around. At this point, I had to get my brother-in-law involved because these timbers were heavy and he helped me measure things, make sure things were 20 feet across and make sure things that were nice and even and level. Used a crowbar to pull things up nice and tight before we started screwing things together. Had to do a little bit of trim work at the very top just to make sure things were even with the other side. And again, I'm probably gonna have to replace these blades because these logs are really wet and the blades aren't gonna love it. Had to do some more pilot holes. Use some of the holes that I already had, and then I had to do a little bit more just because I had the cuts in different places and I want to make sure things weren't gonna move around on me. And then finally, I took my circular saw and made an angle cut so that the last timber that goes across the back part of the parking pad is even and looks the same as the other side. Had a little help from my daughter who helped me just spin things around so I wouldn't have to do it by myself, but we got it done. A little bit of cleanup, moving the gravel back in place, putting the dirt on the other side as well as I could to make sure things don't move around, and that's it. We were done. It actually looks pretty good. I was actually not gonna make this smaller. I was gonna bring it all the way down to the end like it was over there. But the more I look at it, it actually looks a lot better now that it matches the other side over there. My wife thought about making the back like another layer taller. And with my truck, that's no big deal. But with my daughter's car, she may end up hitting it if she's not paying attention. So we're gonna leave it where it is. It holds in all the gravel, and we may change out that gravel at some point. Over on this side, not sure what I'm gonna do with it. We are probably going to let all that clay thaw out. Right now it's completely frozen, so there's no way to break it up, but we've got some thoughts that we need to do. If nothing else, I will probably put grass and some landscaping over here and make it look nice. That's it for now. All right, folks, so that's all I've got for you today. Hope you guys enjoy this video. First one back for the spring. Got lots more projects coming. Gonna be working on some of the drainage in the back, so stay tuned for all of that. And one quick shout out for the sweatshirt here is from Chips and Guac. He's got a lawn channel. He gave me this shirt. I think I won a contest last year. Honestly, this is the first chance I've gotten to wear it, but I love it. It was nice and warm. Kept me real warm today. So appreciate it, Chips and Guac, for the sweatshirt. I love it. I'll keep wearing it. So hope you guys enjoy the video. Stay tuned for some more stuff. Hope you guys have a great week. If you like this video, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to see future videos, don't forget to hit that bell, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a great week, everybody.